Hello and welcome to the Professional Media Presence podcast series.
Artist Identity and Media. Welcome to a podcast episode on artist identity and media. We will explore the relationship between artists and the media landscape. I'm your host, Milla Järvipetäjä, and we have here two professional artists, Nika Rukavina and Luca Cacini, and they will share their unique perspectives on this fascinating topic. So let's start by getting to know our guests. Nika and Luca, could you each briefly share some of the most important themes in your artistic work?
Hi, first of all, hello to everybody, and my artistic work. So I finished sculpture at Accademia di Belle Arti in Venice, and after that I kind of started doing performance more than sculpture, because it was, let's say, a cheaper material to use my body than to use any kind of sculptural material. And so in my professional work as a visual artist, I use mostly my body in a performance work, and I use different medias to tell and to tell a story that I want to tell, or to let people know how I feel.
And Luca?
Hi, I'm Luca. I'm an artist and researcher from Italy. A bit of background about my story and my practice. I started as a designer in Italy, and I was very dissatisfied by my life and my job, and then around 2020 I started working with media art and digital art, because back in 2020 everything went digital, everything went virtual because of the social restriction, etc. So I started working in a duo with another artist, and we started doing media art, especially VR, extended reality projects, so digital sculpture. And after that I started to see art as a tool for research. So when I say art is a research, I mean that at the present moment I mostly use art as a tool, as a methodology for my practice and my research. So after that I started writing more, and now I'm mostly writing a lot. Okay.
And what about the artistic practices you are mostly common with, and do you find that they are connected to your artistic identity?
So first we have to see what I consider my artistic identity as. I kind of have this distinction in what I do and who I am, even though the two things interlap a lot. I have to keep that distinction, in a sense, not to get too attached to see myself as my art, because then you get lost, and it's really not a good state of mind to be in. So I kind of have to have this distinction. But definitely my art is linked to who I am, and to me personally, in a sense that it comes from the things that bother me, that I observe, that are kind of how I see the world. So the two things are very interlapsed. And the past 10 years I was mostly working, let's say the underneath topic of most of my work was a kind of a personal research of pain that probably you won't read and see in a lot of works, but for me personally, in every work was underlined this note of how to deal with pain, how to see pain, and how to get past pain and accept it.
Can you share an example of an artwork which deals with this kind of pain?
This line is in most of the works. Like I can maybe mostly explain it in this work of Cornered, in which I push the corner of a building and I really push that wall for I think it's 30 minutes of 1 hour or 1 hour, I don't remember anymore. So there is always more layers in the work. So this work is explained as how we humans tend to push things even when they are done. So we tend to waste huge resources of energy of ourselves to do and push things because we think letting go is not an option. And that is something that is quite wrong, because letting go and moving away, it's a valid option and we should all take it and do it. So that's the basis of how this work is explained and what's the upper topic of the work. But underneath that, my personal thing is that in that kind of performance, that is a physical performance, you have to enter this kind of state of mind in which you don't feel anything. So in that state of mind, you become, you kind of don't have your thoughts anymore. You become completely empty in a sense. So and it's a physically painful thing. So it's kind of a research of how you can accept pain, and when you accept pain, you get to that another level of consciousness where the pain doesn't exist, and where you can endure it indefinitely. In a sense, you always have to measure how much your physical body can endure, but that's another thing. Psychically, you can endure then indefinitely.
And Luca, could you share us something about your identity and artistic practices?
Yeah, I guess first we should probably discuss what's the ontological question of identity, because for me, art and my art practice is a sort of process of actualization, individuation, and it's I don't see identity as a fixed set of characteristics, but rather more of a process. And there's some, of course, there's some meta-stability in the sense that we, at certain times, at certain points in our life, we concretely become something. But I guess the privilege and the nature of art is to be more authentically fluid and rather to not be static, in the sense that identity could be definitely, it's not that it's connected in a, I would say, I think identity is definitely of course it's part of the art because it's the artist itself. So yeah.
And Luca, what do you think about the ecosystem of art around you? You are surrounded by museums, critics, peer artists, and such. How do you find this connection to this ecosystem?
So the art ecosystem, I think, is very complex, and it has many different actors and professional figures involved in the whole cultural sector. And the way I relate to them, it's there's of course always a more institutional sense in which you have to, as a professional artist, engage with your practice and your profession, but also there's always a deep desire to connect with your audience, and with which is a word that we discussed previously. We sort of don't like, but to be more to be easily to understand. Why we don't like? Because we don't think we should. I don't think we actually have a audience. We'd rather have, or we simply have people that share our same values and our same interests and our same engagement with the culture, and that is simultaneously both the people that it's part of your milieu, it's part of your crew, and also people that are the one that actively consume your art, and at the same time it's part of a broader community, I guess, of people that they make art, and they at the same time consume other people's art. It's as I was discussing before about art as a process of self-actualization and individuation. So I would say that the way I see art is a process of collective individuation. It's sort of like, okay, all these different personalities, all these different identities, all these different people, they get together and they create some society, they create some community. That's the thing that I think is mostly important in art. And then, of course, there's a more institutional part. As I say, there's so many actors involved.
And Nika, what does your ecosystem look like? Does it look like Luca's ecosystem also, or do you have different thoughts?
Yeah, so this ecosystem, I think it works quite differently in every country. So if we consider this ecosystem as this ladders on how to be an artist and how to be a professional artist, because at the end you need these institutions, you need galleries, you need curators, you need a different set of actors in this whole show that we are playing. And every country kind of has their own set of rules for playing. And in a lot of countries, those rules are not quite fair, because in let's say in my country, in a lot of institutions, you still have that notion that artists should work for free and be happy if they get a chance to have an exhibition performance. So those values are something that we have to change. We have to change them on European level, even though in a lot of EU countries it's not like that. And so if it is a system, in this system everybody is paid. So people that work in the institutions are paid. People that clean those institutions are paid. People that do graphic design are paid. Artists should be paid also, because without artists you wouldn't be open. So if it's a system, it has to be a closed system. It has to be a circle that is closed, in which everybody is fairly compensated for their work. I know that a lot of artists don't think in a sense of materialism, and it's not good to do your art for money, exclusively for money, but we also have to pay bills and we have to eat, and we should think of it as our work, not only as something that we do because we have an urge to do it.
Media is one part of artistic ecosystem, and sometimes the relationship with media is considered very significant for artists. And how would you describe your own connection to different forms of media?
So, for me, media are in a sense important as they are not so important. Of course, visibility is important. Without visibility, artists cannot work. And especially, let's say, the social media is one of the things where you are always there, so people don't forget that you exist and what you do. So the next time they have something that they are doing, they will think about you. For other media, there is a lot of this notion, I think, especially for younger artists, that, if you end up in a newspaper that is like a big newspaper in your country or in TV, you have made it. You will now have more gigs and more everything. Some cases yes, some cases no. It's not a done deal if you are in some prime media thing. It's actually for visual. I'm talking only about visual artists here, and it's a system on its own that when you play the game, you know how it works. It's much more layered, and to have bigger gigs, better gigs, it usually depends more on, let's say it, luck and who you know. Because it's not in a sense who you know, but the more people know what you do, the more they can consider you the next time they do something. So in that sense, visibility is very important, because if they don't know what you do, nobody will call you to do anything.
Yeah, and for me, I think I don't know, one of the first thing that you learn while you approach critical theory around media is that the medium is the message, and so this idea of McLuhan, it still resonates, I think. And for me, the medium and media in general are an interesting topic of study, because I think it's relevant to understand how media shapes our culture, and the way that technology change actually our way to produce art, to engage with culture, with art, with visual images, with sounds. It's for me is the plane in which we start planting the seeds of art. It's I would say extremely relevant as a discussion for me, and I don't think it's at the present time possible to avoid the question of media and technology. I mean, you can, but we live in a very digitized society, and we live in a society where technologies and specifically certain entities like big corporation working in tech, they sort of reached a status of I would say mega structures in our world that they go beyond national borders, beyond they are very influential at this point. So influential that they shape society as a whole. So I think it's kind of normal and natural that artists reflects on that. So yeah, media is extremely important.
And what about media literacy? I think, Luca, you have an example of an artwork that deals with media literacy. Could you tell us something about it?
Do I? The media literacy.
The Antarctic.
In that sense. Oh no! I was saying. Okay. Yeah, I didn't get the. Yeah. It's. I would say is no. It's more a reflection, I think, on the image production and circulation in internet and digital culture right now. It's okay. So there is this story about this image that circulated around 2023, at the beginning of 2023, I think. It's a picture of flowers in Antarctica. Flowers blooming in Antarctica, and so this image became quite viral for a few months, and it's quite fascinating because this image alone produced such a sort of folklore, sort of a digital folklore, some narratives that were generated by this image alone, and in the end, this image was not even real, but it was in a weird intersection in which it was possible, actually, because we all know that we live in a world that is sort of doomed by climate change, but we are sort of used to, at this point, to see catastrophes connected to the weather or weird things happening, like the nature changing. So it's sort of like, okay, I see flowers in the Antarctica, and yes, it could actually be at this point. It's still sort of weird, but you can see the world being that weird now, and but it was not true. There were actually a picture of a flower took in Greenland during summer, and it was not Antarctica. So in the end, these images, I think, is a great example of I wouldn't say fake news, but I would say it's a great example of how images are interpreted and could construct different narratives and realities on the internet. Because it was for example, one popular memes around this image was the doomer. The doomer, for who doesn't know, is sort of like this meme about this guy which is like completely depressed and has no hope for the future. And actually people were looking at that image and thinking, okay, we are cooked. If there's actual people were thinking, oh, that's true, you know. That's true that flowers are blooming in Antarctica, so we are basically cooked. We are in a situation where there's no way back. It's a very complex topic because now there's no point of return from to the past in which there was some sort of authority in image. I mean, it was always possible to change a picture, photography, or construct narratives, but now we arrive to a point where images are so fabricated that they are kind of breaching in our own perception and construction of reality. So yeah, that was my research question around that image, how this whole fabrication of images is breaching our sense of reality, really. And it's an unresolved problem, and I'm not thinking about an actual solution here in this residency, but it's nice to have a time and space for critical reflection also with the students here at the university. And I actually find out that people really want to discuss about these topics because it's quite I mean, we are all like connected to this social media, but we are such in a private, individual way. We are so atomized, individual. The concept of, you know, the individual rather than individual. And yeah, so the moment you really start talking about it in group, there's so much to discuss about, to be honest, because we are also emotionally and intellectually and psychologically involved with our media and with our phones. And now I wish to stop talking, but yeah.
I find it interesting in a sense. Before all the internet and social media, kind of all the images, more or less all the images were kind of a propaganda. So you had you had an image that was presented, sold with one story. Behind those images there were other stories, and the truth, most of it you never knew. But the people that did the propaganda were much less. So now that everybody has an access and everybody can do some kind of a propaganda and some kind of fake news or not fake news, people are completely getting lost in a sense that I think we are getting to that point that we are really not gonna be able to distinguish what is reality and what is not reality, and that brings us to a very, very, very scary world in which people have to be taught, especially young people have to be taught to use their judgment much better, and their sanity depends on it quite a lot. I think sanity of all of us depends on it quite a lot, because especially young people are getting very, very lost in all this chaos of what is truth and what is not truth.
What about in general navigating in social media? Is it meaningful for artistic purposes? How do you find it?
For me, I personally call it my Instagram. I call it Tamaguchi. Yeah, I know it's an older thing from when I was a kid, but yeah, it's something that you have to feed all the time, and sometimes you are in that, oh yeah, let's do it, and sometimes you're really like, should I let it die and be over it? So yeah, it has sometimes, yeah, it has his good things, bad things, but it's something that I think it's something that we have to do because it's part of the job and it's part of the visibility, no matter how we personally feel about it.
So you find it meaningful to your career also?
To my career, I personally, to my career, I never had like that some job that somebody saw me on Instagram and contact me and get me some job or things like that. No. Probably there are people that, yeah, they had it, but for the art that I do it, it's not even kind of to expect that it will happen. So I don't know. I didn't have any kind of direct proof that it's worth it, but probably for the visibility it is. Yeah, that's the best answer I can give you.
Yeah, I suppose if you're an artist like a designer or sculpture or photographer or you have some sort of direct tool. I mean, social media could be sort of a direct tool to find an income, find people interested in your art, people to sell your art directly without a middleman. I guess it's cool. I personally use social media mostly for keep contact with my network. I use social media mostly for find new opportunities because so I guess for me it's more like a tool of information, like rather than a tool of expression. But yeah, you have to maintain a certain level of presence to have a credibility, or rather, sort of credibility. Yeah, I guess.
Thank you, Nika and Luca, for your insights on artist identity and media.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. The Professional Media Presence project is co-funded by the Creative Europe program of the European Union. Make sure to follow the updates on our social media, Instagram and Facebook, and visit our website pmpproject.eu. Stay tuned for more episodes.